Right, white to play and win. Pause the video and decide what are you going to do? How are you going to win this position? This is a study from 1980 by Benko. It's pretty bonkers, hence the name of this video being Benko's Bonkers, because it's a bonkers puzzle that belongs to Benko. It's number 45 in that book, 100 Endgame Studies You Must Know by Jan Timman. I prepped this position to go somewhere in the Rook and Pawns videos, but forgot to include it anywhere, just as as a bit of fun at the end of one of the videos. So it's going as a video in its own right, and it gives me another excuse to temporarily pause my Rook Endgame project mountain that I'm in the middle of. Anyway, I've been waffling on for more than long enough for you to have paused the video and had a go at this. How is white going to win this position? I mean, it looks at first sight like white might even be struggling to draw this position because this a-pawn's about to queen. So what does white do? White only has two non-losing moves. There's rook f1, which is what we need to play here, but there's also rook f4 check, just sort of chucking in a check en route to f1. We can't go the other way, of course, because the b1 square is covered, and the a-pawn is the a6 pawn is blocking that route to stopping the queening. So rook f1, king b3, and the first thing is you've got to work out the theme of this study. So well done if you cracked that the theme is we're going to stalemate the black king. Okay, we shove our rook in the corner, black plays king b2, we play king d2, takes, and then we stalemate the black king. So the plan is stalemate the black king, and that means that black's forced to push pawns. Okay, we're not forced to do anything, we can play waiting moves. But the black side is forced to push pawns. But black's quite happy to push pawns here because the stalemating of the black king in this instance is going to lead to stalemate. And remember, white's trying to win this. So first of all, we, as black, would push the h-pawn. White starts there, king c2, c1, shuffling. There you go, there's the shuffle. And black just deliberately runs themselves out of moves. King c1. All right, the h-pawn's forced now. Anytime we take, it's stalemate. So g4 to avoid taking. h3, and that pawn has to be taken. Otherwise, black's going to win this game by queening on g1 or h1. So that's just stalemate. So yes, it's a stalemate theme, but not stalemate. We're trying to get a win for white here. So rook f1, king b3. Let's push a pawn, push the g pawn. Okay? At least that gets us one extra move here. That means it's harder for black to run out of moves. King b2. Okay. Now what? Well, now surely we have to shove our rook in the corner because this queening is being threatened. So rook a1. Okay. King takes a1, king c2. Great, the black king is stalemated. Black plays h6, and then we start the shuffling, king c1. But black then again runs themselves out of moves, okay, and we reach this position. Now if black carries on running themselves out of moves, so if you calculated this line and worked out that white's winning, you're correct, white is winning. Okay, black can't push that pawn all the way to a3. Because the white king comes back to c2, crucially not on c1. Black's only got one legal move, which has to be played, and we have to ignore it, otherwise we're going to ignore the h1, otherwise we're not going to win anything. h4, g6, h3, keep ignoring the h-pawn, and black gets to choose whether they get checkmated on g1, or whether they get checkmated on g7. So in this position here, when black pushes the pawn to a3, the only thing they've got left is to choose whether they get checkmated on g1 or on g7, and white wins. Okay. But the problem in that line was that white could just sort of ignore the h pawn when it got all the way to h3. Okay, because they're queening first, and their king's not on c1. Okay, otherwise, if their king was on c1, then in this line, we'd see a check when black queened. So black can use that to their advantage back here, because at the moment white's king is on c1. So rather than pushing the a pawn, black pushes the h pawn. And we say, well, just ignore that, just transpose. But black's not forced to transpose. They're not forced to play this. They keep pushing the h pawn down the board, and that forces you to deal with it. Okay. We could ignore that in the other line. We can't ignore it this time. We have to take it, otherwise we'll probably end up losing the game. We'd have to be careful not to lose the game. But in the not ignoring the h pawn line, then black plays a3, and white has no way to finish that off. You just have to either stalemate the black king, or risk losing it well, black's at least going to get a queen and get to check first with a pawn still on a3. So you might even end up losing it. I mean, it says in the see any move that lets the black king out, the engine's got is a win for black. Right, okay, so back to this original position. Rook f1, king b3. Don't play rook a1 just yet. Play g4, king b2. Surely I've got to play rook f1 now. Rook a1 now. No, what else is there? Well, we've seen that rook a1 doesn't do it. So what else have you got? Well, you play rook f2 check. Okay. Black will just say, I'm just putting my king back on b3. You know, we're just going to go around in circles here. Just out of interest. King b1, and we have a different winning theme. King b1 fails to king c3. a1 equals queen check. King b3. And black can't avoid the checkmate, because their own pawn is blocking the square the queen would want to go to stop rook f1. How cool is that? What a beautiful final position that would be. I mean, if black knighted instead of queening, yes, it's not sort of an immediate elegant checkmate, but it's a very easy win for white. As the engine even got that on its list of moves. Although apparently it's checkmate in 21 whatever. Whatever black does. So even the queening line. Oh, okay, yeah, because the black king runs away. So we just give up the queen, and it's another 17 moves to checkmate there. So yeah, black's not getting mated, but black is losing their queen. So yeah, not king b1, but instead remember that black can just play king b3 and say, well, you've still got to deal with this somehow. And rook f1, we're going to get a perpetual. Rook f6. Absolutely brilliant. If black ignores that and queens, we go check. King a3. Take the queen. And that's a 1, king and pawn ending. By the way, that was the point of the rook f1, the rook f2 check back in this position. Okay, rook f6 here wouldn't work because the black king's got the c1 square. But we go check to force the black king opposite our king, so that if black queens, this check would force the black king to the a file and would get the winning king and pawn ending. So black can't allow that and instead has to push the a pawn, okay? Which is a bit strange because it's like black's further on in the sort of running out of moves thing that we saw a second ago. But we wanted to come up to f6 to force the black king to push the a pawn, then play rook f1, king b2, rook into the corner. Black might obstinately say, well, I'm not taking that rook yet. h6, king d2, black's got to do something, taking that rook now. King takes a1, king c1, and it doesn't really matter whether black pushes the a pawn or not. If they push the a-pawn, we shuffle, push the a-pawn again. We'd then play g3, we don't want our king on c1. h5, ignore the h-pawn, h4, keep ignoring it, and we've got a choice again of whether we get mated on g1. What was the other choice? Back here, black could have got mated on g7 again, couldn't they? So that was that, getting mated on g1. What if black tries to force white to do something now by playing h5? Well, this time we can ignore the h-pawn. Keeps getting pushed, g6, h3. Now we can take it. Okay, we can take that h-pawn because black's still got a4, g7, a3. It's not finished. We need to let the black king out. Okay, so we let the black king out, king d2, king b2. g8 equals queen, a1 equals queen, and now it's just a case of sorting out the zigzag to checkmate the black king, basically, down in the bottom left-hand corner. So we'd see check, king a2, check on f7, check on the b file, that forces king a2, check on d5, check on b5, check, checkmate. So I think that was this little zigzag. There's the zigzag. I mean, I'm sure there were other zigzags down there, and also I think after that first check, black could have played king b1 to force us to do a slightly different zigzag. I guess would have had to have gone g6, king a2. Let's see if we can work that one out. That will force king a2 because queen c2 is mate straight away. King e6. That forces the king onto the b file, doesn't it? Oh, do we want to do that one? It went to b2. Maybe e5. We'll get there eventually. If it goes back to a2. There you go. I've got to c4 eventually. You work it out. Okay, one of the different zigzags. So yeah, how absolutely brilliant is that? What a fantastic study by Benko. Rook f1, king b3. The stalemate theme. You push the g pawn because you realise it's going to be a battle of running out of moves. You can't put the rook in the corner straight away because you need to force black to first of all play one of their moves, even though it's weird, even though like they're running out of moves first is what they want to try and do. You just want them to lose one move. So you check, force opposite, rook f6, force the black pawn to move, and then come back down to f1. And we see the stalemated black king, which is soon to become a checkmated black king with a bit of zigzagging at the end. So there you go. Hope everyone enjoyed that.